Hello. Trying to pull up the right thingy. Type out the thing. Welcome to episode 101! Exclamation. Pretty simple tonight. I'm going to be working on trying to finish this sucker. I don't know if we will because there's so much going on it. But this is the piece we started in episode 100. It's Pencils by J. Kennedy. You can see he signed it right there, J. Kennedy. He did the layouts. He worked on books for Archie. He's got the head work published by Image Comics. Yeah, Jay's been a Boston creator for a long time. So I'm going to see if this goes back. There we go. That's more my speed. What happened to my little signature? There we go. There's me. There's my little signature. I did get some new art supplies in the mail, including these FH Feud Hard paper Castell pens, and I got some fresh ink in the mail. So I'm actually going to lower the camera a little bit so we can zoom in. I'm going to slide this over a bit. Hopefully you don't see my messy desk. And we're just going to get to work. I'm going to actually start in the back with this mummy right here. And I'm going to use my FH pen so people can see that in action. You can see it has a hard plastic tip. And as opposed to the Kiritaki, this is a little softer. It's a similar material, but the Kiritaki is softer. And it tends to get a more feeling of like a fancy flare pen. If people know what flare pens are, they've been in offices and used for years and years. So, hey, Jonathan, good to see you, man. Sorry, I was out of commission this weekend. I had a terrible migraine. When I get those, they just like shut my brain down, and then like it takes me a day to come back from them. And you can see with this line, when you look at it, it gets sort of a faux brush technique because you can taper the line, you can have kind of a dynamic flex to the tip. It's a flexible head brush or pen. And if you're nervous about trying brush or you have had trouble with it and you want some of those line variances, this is a great compromise. I'm trying to follow Jay's pencils as closely as I can. Let's see if we can zoom in more without losing our quality of picture. There we go. That way you can see a little bit closer. I've got a 0.3 right here. This is a small tip. Got an extra small, which is a 0.1, and then I like to use the 0.5, which is that, and then we have our brush pen, which we will absolutely use on this, but because it's further away, I'm more comfortable using something like this. Oh, working on models, nice. For some reason, it looks like we're too close, so it's like flopping in and out of focus. Let's see where we can get it. A nice happy medium. That looks pretty good. It's not trying to focus over and over again. I don't know why, but that looks crooked to me. The picture, does the picture look crooked to you? No, maybe not. Maybe it's just me. I don't ink other people often anymore. I inked Chris Campana on a couple of covers, a couple of pieces over the years. Chris is, of course, doing very well for himself, working over at Marvel these days. Back in the day, we did a TMNT Ghostbusters cover, and then we did a Deadpool print. So super happy for him. I will do the Undersea Hero update towards the end tonight. I do have another finished page I'll show off. It's a silly little one-off page in the middle of the story that, it might, for some people, disrupt the pace a little bit, but I thought it was necessary because one, I thought it was funny, and two, I thought it was good for the world building, and it gave people a sense of scale. I think it's often important to do. Hey, Desiree. Hey, Michael. I'm using the pens, Michael, as you can see. Michael sent me a link a while back to where I could get them not in a set, because for a while you can only buy these things in a set. Michael said something nice. We'll give it the spotlight. Hey, everyone watching the stream. I hope everyone's doing well. If not, I hope things get better. That's very nice of you, man. It's a good sentiment. I think we're lucky here. I think we got a lot of nice folks. And I really genuinely believe if people got to meet each other at a convention or at a comic book store, I think a lot of people in here would be friends on the outside world, not just virtually. Because I've been lucky. I've had so many pleasant interactions and memories of everybody over the years at shows or just hanging out, just doing stuff. Big news, just before the stream, the cat decided that he would lean on one of the flimsy screens and fell out the window. So I had to go chase him around the yard. He got trapped like in the back behind a bush, between a bush and an old fence. He was doing the I don't want to come out routine. Needless to say, his windowsill privileges have been revoked for the evening. You can see as I'm going through this, I am interpreting the pencils because Jay, I like I've said many times, his layouts are strong, but he is very loose, and he makes a lot of his drawing decisions. If you ever watch him draw while he's inking, the inking for him is a part of the drawing process, as it is for me. For a lot of artists. What have I been reading? I read a couple of old Conans we got at a local show. I've only got one of those left to read. I've been reading some 90s Wolverine books that I got there too. What else did I read recently? I don't know. I just grab stuff out of the stack. Or lately, I've been grabbing stuff out of boxes I haven't looked in and just rereading stuff that I hadn't read in ages. It's been really fun. It's the beauty of it. I always find something that I missed, and I was reading Wolverine, I think it was 51. It's the one issue that Andy drew in the middle of the run. And of course, I had just passed a Facebook group post that was trying to say that Andy Kubert can't draw. And they were saying that in such a uninformed and mean way that I just flat out left that group. And the idea of saying that he can't draw is absurd, and it's just being hot takey. But there are people that genuinely don't know what drawing is. Just you don't have to like what they draw, but he's a phenomenal artist. I happen to love his work. I am in the small group of people who liked his artwork on that second series of X-Men more than the first couple of issues drawn by Jim Lee. Now, I think Jim Lee's uncanny work vastly surpasses his work on that second series, but um, it was consistently dynamic. So, yeah, there were folks that just, I don't know. There's plenty of stuff that I don't like, but I can acknowledge how well it's done and the skill that's involved. But I was out of that group very quickly. And I had seen stuff trending in that direction, so I didn't want to stick around. This looks like Jay is trying to draw like a medallion of some kind. Anytime I have to draw something like that, I take out the old shape here. And we'll find one that's close. That looks pretty good. We're just going to use a very small pen. Go like this. That way we can come back. And if you want that hand-drawn look, you can go back in. Instead of using the mechanical line, you can give it a softer line drawn by hand. And to me, it looks like he's trying to draw a chain here, or he's given an indication of a chain. So what I will do is I will go in and try to draw that, because you can see it's a dotted line. It's not a straight line. And these are all decisions that we're just kind of making as we go. How about that episode 100? We had guests, we had new work, we had fabulous prizes, helping Doug clean out his drawing drawer. And again, here we are having to interpret these hands. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at this hand and I'm looking at this hand he drew here had a lot more detail. And this is very gestural. So what I'm going to do is just make the decision to be gestural, but anywhere where I'm questioning what's here, I'm going to be informed by what's here. So it looks like there's, a bandage on one or more of the fingers in different places. There's skin hanging off. There's all kinds of things. And that's how I'm going to interpret these just miscellaneous lines that he has here. I mean, this is very clearly more what, if you were ever looking at a comic book in the credits, this would be more of a finishing job than just an inking job. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm making those creative decisions that the penciler usually makes. Now, some pencilers are loose, and back in the old days, penciling was just more of like a pacing device for an inker to go in and put finishes to, like the beautiful work of like Terry Austin and John Byrne. If you see John Byrne's pencils from that era, they are super tight, but Terry absolutely added his flair to it. Or anytime Klaus Janson would ink something, like he would add these beautiful textures to it, and it was just magical. If you like early Sal Buscema stuff, before he went with like that scratchier technique in the 80s, he had he was subject to tons of different inkers in his career, and you could see the difference between all the different people approaching his lines and his decisions, or the ones that he left open for the inker to make. To me, this looks like a busted out knuckle, so we'll leave that there. So it adds more character to it. And then the thumb connects down here. To me, it looks like there's some wrapping on that part based on how he drew that line. And I still want it to feel like a Jay Kennedy piece of work. So that's the goal, is to have people look at it and know that Jay and I teamed up on it. And I think that, you'll see parts of both artists. And I always like that when I see an inker's work or a finisher's work. Like, you couldn't miss a Rudy Nebres finished drawing from 10,000 Miles, or Joe Sinnott, when you would see his beautiful ink work over any number of artists. Whether it was the entirety of his run of Fantastic Four, which spanned, and it's such a fascinating look because you had the same inker on Kirby, on Buscema, on Byrne for a little while, on Ron Friends. Like, you had a whole bunch of different pencilers, Keith Pollard, young Bill Sienkiewicz. You had just all these pencilers, and they would all get focused through the line of Joe Sinnott. And it's just fascinating to see what his contributions were because of, like, the span of time he was doing it and how many different creative voices that he was collaborating with. Dennis, celebrity in the house. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. The cat got out, but, like, I think I'm more distraught over that than he is. We got him back. It was a touch and go for I don't know, 15 minutes. Needless to say, Bruce is not an outside cat. He did. He got a taste of freedom. And the funny thing is we just got him a little harness, and we were going to start taking him outside so he can sit in the yard while I'm grilling or whatever. Now, here, Jay made one of those mistakes that I make myself sometimes. Is you see where this shoulder is? This line here is reacting to this line here. And it's not because of their shape or decision in space. It's just, as you come across heading this way, it's natural to react to what you're heading towards. So Bruce was on the loose. It could be. Could be. That could be a children's book title. You are right about that. I'd have to Google it, though. I would assume that somebody has used that. I just look on Amazon, the 10 million children's books that have come out, sadly made with AI as of recent. I do have a couple of ideas for children's books, but I'm sitting on them for now. When I get to a different point in my life, I will tackle those challenges. But yeah, we're working on this drawing by Jay Kennedy, and we're having a good time. I will keep this here the way he drew it. I don't know if Jay looked this up. I hope he did. You never know with symbology. Um, I always Google that stuff before I put it on anything. At this point in my life, you don't want to, make a stupid mistake and, borrow a symbol that means something you don't mean it to. I did work on this sign. I don't have it in front of me, but this is rewritten and fixed and all that stuff that we talked about in episode 100 last week. I don't know what's going on here with these lines. Like there's a downward line, there's an upward line. So I am going to make the decision to have these be like, I want to keep these lines. I don't want to lose them. So I'm going to have these be like decorative, like plates. And what we will do is we will add another chain. I know Jay did not put this here, but I want these to make some sense. Wisconsin. Hello, Wisconsin. Hello, Sean. How are you? How's Wisconsin? We got people all over the country. We got California in the house. We got Wisconsin. I think we got a Connecticut in here. All right, well, let's grab our brush pen here, and I'm going to prime it just on this space here. It doesn't hurt anything to add extra black on the black there, because we're going to have to, because he used a different ink, and here's another thing we have to do. Because he used a different ink, we're going to have to recoat all of that. Sean says it's been kind of gross this year out in Wisconsin. Lots of rain, wind, and trees coming down. Oh, that's no good. My folks live in the Midwest, and I was there for high school and middle school, and just like a tiny touch of earlier years, like just a little tiny touch of elementary school. You can't beat a brush when you want those fine hairlines. Like you can see how fine those are. You can't beat it. You can't. No pen can match it. It just you can't beat it. So if that's the kind of line you're after, it's just going to take lots and lots of practice with a pen or a brush pen. I highly recommend starting out with a brush pen, but that's just from having been through it with a regular brush. I wish someone had pointed me towards something like this. Like, and I had tried some of them; they were just awful. Like old brush pens from the early 2000s were like. Uh, oh, thanks so much, Dennis. Have a good night. Thanks for popping in, man. I'll see you and Flaky down the track somewhere. Folks should check out Dennis's work on the motion comics that they've been doing. They worked on my buddy Joe's new Zodiacs one, and I should just put a link to them in my stream, just because they're nice guys and they help out my buddies and they do cool stuff. I just always forget. Like Wednesday comes, I rush through the door from the office, and I set up the stream stuff, and I just forget on the fly. Oh, wait, I missed one of Sean. Sean says he grew up in Arizona, so he's a rare transplant into the Midwest. That's very true. That's very true. Practicing my Pentel pocket brush a lot lately. It's very addictive. It is. It is. And then when you start having those small victories, when you start seeing those lines, then start being able to repeat those lines, and then start being able to deploy them in places where you think that they can really just do good stuff on a piece. It's It's a lot of fun. I can't tell you how many pieces I inked terribly, especially early in my career when I was learning how to use a brush. One of my earliest inking jobs was inking a story by Darrell Banks, and I look back on it and it's terrible from my perspective of the level of inking I brought to it because I had just started learning the tools. I used a crow quill, I used brush, and I used for the backgrounds. My hands were so unsteady with the crow quill. I had to use some pens, some little markery type pens like microns for some of that stuff. Right now, I'm shaping, trying to focus the shadows so they have a purpose. That I think needs to be left there. I'm sure it's the same for, musicians learning an instrument when they start really getting the notes down or the finger placement or whatever. Like I'm sure it's just as addictive and exciting and just satisfying that you're getting better. This is not Pentel. This is the Kiritaki Sable brush tip pen. It's got a refillable reservoir in it. I know a lot of people like the Pentel, but this is the Kiritaki. I like it because it is a sable tip and they last forever as long as you clean them and take care of them. I've only replaced it once in the years I've been using it, and it keeps a tip longer than any of the Raphael brushes or the Winsor Newtons I've been getting lately. In the last several years, I haven't been using them in some time now because they just weren't as good. They do and it's for if anyone's looking to try it, the Sable one is more expensive. They have a synthetic, and the point is fantastic, but it does wear out. So, like, if you just wanted to try it, if you wanted to get one, I think $30 for the hilt and the synthetic tip. And if you like it, you can just get the tip. You can get a new one of these, and that I think those are like 25 a piece. So you don't have to rebuy the whole pen to switch the type of bristles you're using. So just something to keep in mind for people looking to try it out. All right. Well, now we got to tackle something that's very J. Like this, I think you can see both of us in, but this, the way he draws people's faces and the way he attacks how light works is very different than I do. So we will do our best. And because it's J, I do think I'm going to use a pen for the faces especially. So we've got our 0.3. We will come in here. I actually think I need to pull out some of this stuff. I think there's a piece right here that I missed. Sticking out that way. And then I missed a little one there. That's okay. It'll be all right. Now, Jay, again, needs to be better about using his templates. He has all of these, because some of them I bought for him over the years. And there you go. That looks much better. I'm actually probably just going to black this part out. Let's just do that right now, because I'm tired of looking at that thing. Jay might be mad, but it's driving me nuts. We're going to just black it out. And you can see the difference. He just used a marker. You can see the difference between ink and then marker next to it. So when you go over it with your ink, you can see that you can see the difference. So like we'll have to go in and fill this with full of ink, but we're gonna cover it up for now. And this is what can happen when you pass it off to another artist. They can make a decision like this, and Jay might be at home watching this right now, like sipping his beer, going, that jerk. Look at that jerk. Look at my beautiful sign. And he couldn't stand that it was spelled wrong. How dare he, with his high and mighty judgment on my misspelling. Oh, wrong pen. That's just the F. We want the FH. Sean says Winsor and Newton's quality in general is way down. They're basically just selling the name on the cheap white label products. Yeah, and it's a bummer because they obviously they were the standard bearer for a very long time. I don't think I have a curve that would work for this. Let me just check real quick. No, I don't. I do not. So we're just going to have to do our best. And it's weird because Jay is usually very good about this sort of thing right here. He usually is. We're going to come across here and we're going to pull it like that. And then directly across here, we'll pull it like that. And see, there's a weird little line right there. So I don't know. That's what Jay penciled. Let's try to keep it. He wanted it. What I'm hoping is I can go in when this is inked and then take my white and then pull it out even more. That's my hope. That's the hope. And Jay's faces have like a very animated quality to them. So I don't want to lose that. Like I'm not going to redraw stuff. The only thing I changed was he had one ear like way the hell up here, and I did pull that down. Um, Now, see, if this were my penciling, I would use this light source to have the shadow, creating a cast shadow with the nose and things like that. And I probably would not have this. I would not have this like lens flary looking thing. I would just draw the whole thing and then go in with white and throw a flick on it. But that's just because I prefer that look. Jay is looking at it as a cartoon as much as a comic, so. I don't fully understand Jay's direction with some of his facial features. He definitely has watched more manga than I have in my life. I've always kind of wondered if he had more of that in mind. It's so interesting seeing my line over Jay's overall design. I don't know. It's interesting because we have such a different approach to stuff, but you'll see little pieces. I'm sure people looking at this can see like little pieces of mine and little pieces of his, and I find that fascinating. Now he has some lines here. Now, how would you interpret those? Like, does he want me to crosshatch in that? Is that what he wants there? I don't know if those are structural or not. So I have to make a decision. And to be honest, based on the way the lighting is, I would probably leave those off. Just leave the face as it is. I get the brush out again just for that bit of hair. Turn it. This is more of a pull. I think this part needs to be thicker. Pull that in. We'll see. I mean, Jay might hate this thing more than life itself by the time I'm done with it. So we'll see what he says. Just a generic collared shirt. And again, there's like another line here that I'm not sure. We need to indicate with the shadows somehow that the light is coming from there. So we're going to add a little bit of just flat black areas so that we can read where the light is coming from. We're not going to go nuts, but we are going to add some pieces. Just so that it reads. Like, I don't think it reads, so. Well, and these are quite loose. I love Jay, but and he tried to make him tighter than he normally works over himself. But he's so used to working on his own stuff that that can be tough for people. Because like I could just because obviously I draw my own stuff. I could just finish and add all kinds of flourishes and things like that. But I want it to read as Jay's work. And to me, it looks like he wants a crosshatch screen that's like a cast shadow. So what we do is we then are probably I am probably going to just take this shape that's right here, have it come up because the light is here. You would it would be cast higher, I would think, unless it's coming straight back. I don't know. I do think it would be more dramatic if we like what is in front of this kid. So we're gonna give him just a little more shoulder. We're gonna see where that other shoulder is. Jay, what are you doing to me on this thing? I think we have some more of this. That's his hand. And then we would have just a little bit more of his shirt down there. Yeah. I'm going to carve in just a little bit. I'm not adding anything to Jay's lines here or here. Like, it's just literally if he forgot to add something. And this kid's like kind of chubby. I don't know. So we'll make that a nice heavy line down here. And then again, there's like some random, it looks like he wants texture on this sweater. So we will do that because that'll help us define the shape. And I think his pants are dark, so what we can do is we can go like this. Looks like part of his shirt is untucked, which is a nice little touch. I like that. That's a nice touch. You can have a little tiny bit on the other side so people know what we're looking at. And we have the J. Kennedy hands, which are always a characteristic. What am I saying? Jay's not watching this. He's watching the basketball game. Yeah, Jay drew a good hand here. I mean, this was all of this information was here. It was loose, just like this was, but like it has a ton of character. Jay is excellent at that. There's Bruce yelling at me through the door. Bruce is my cat. If there's anyone here that is new, I don't want people to think it's a roommate or anything like that. It's just my cat. He would like to come in and hang out, but he escaped, so there's no hanging out tonight. Lots of character just moving around, movement in that hand. It looks like it's, pushing off. It doesn't look stagnant. So, and then he has texture down here. So it's like, how do we identify? And this is just a squiggle texture. And then this is like, he clearly wanted contrast between what was behind it and what was here. So I am going to make a creative decision here, and I'm going to put an organized pattern on this, almost like a screen, but we're going to draw it by hand. So hopefully it reads as a graphical element. And what I like to do when doing this is I will just at different points so that I don't lose my spot, I will draw just a loose pattern to follow in various places so that I don't lose my shape. So hopefully when we read this, it reads as a graphical element. And this is why when people ask me to like ink something or do a pinup for them or whatever, it can take me a long time on a big piece of paper. I've started to draw smaller on some things. I've started to change the way I do some stuff just to expedite, the time that I have available to work on this stuff. So, but I see that as a creative problem to solve, finding a way to get things done in the time that I have to the best of my ability. Because the other option on this piece, other than inking a ton, would have been to ink almost nothing and then go in with a wash. That would be a different way to approach Jay's stuff because there's such a softness to those energetic lines that I wonder if a less concise organization of thoughts would work better. See, now I'll have to bug Jay to see if I can get another pencil piece to try that on because now I'm curious. I would need to make a photocopy so that I could see what those lines were, ink as few as possible, and then go in and wash it, interpreting those weird little like lines as direction for wash. See, we've got this part down here that I'm not sure. Do we go full? I think we should just go full black on that. But if that's black, then this can't be black. So do we go black? Because the way he designed it, he didn't design something to separate those two shadows. To me, this reads as he wants this as a halftone of some kind. This is supposed to be crosshatched. And I'm going to be recrosshatching this and this too. So I think that's what we'll do. And that means we can just go full black on these pants. And we'll try to add, you can see where he has these lines where you have these breaks. So it looks like he wants to have a highlight on this side. And I'm going to try to give him a brushed finish that has a serrate to it. Because I know Jay likes them, he just has a hard time doing them. So we're going to try to give Jay some here. Sean asks, do you do digital variants for your projects? What do you mean by that? Digital variants? You mean like variant covers? Do you mean like... To me, this reads like there's more mummy wrappings down here. Like trying different versions digitally. No, I mean, and I'm actually going more traditional. Like I'm going back to hand lettering. Like I am putting lettering on boards again. Um, I'm moving away from as much of the digital as I can muster because I can actually, rather than messing around with the digital, unless I do the whole thing digital, it takes longer. Like my strengths and my speed are traditional, and that's not a boast. That's just a fact. Like I can put a clock to it, and if I'm working digitally, it just takes me longer. Um, I know you can undo things, and obviously I work in Adobe and different programs all the time, but I do not do you know I'm not doing much in as far as my own comics go digitally right now, and a lot of my friends do. A lot of my friends, like, they'll pencil digitally and then they'll mess with it, and they really enjoy that process. So Craig Russo, he does a ton of layouts digitally, and then sometimes he'll pencil digitally. He'll do all kinds of stuff, and be able to print it out and then ink and do it traditionally after that. Sean says he's not a professional, but he doesn't enjoy digital, so he can't be bothered. Well, some jobs actually require it. So, like, I've had to absolutely learn the tools and I use them for the appropriate jobs. Like, my graphic design jobs are all digital. So, like, especially after a day of working on that stuff, all digital, I want to get my brain off of the computer and my eyes were so dry today. I'm just staring at the computer and all the pollen in the air right now. Oh man. Let's get our eraser out and see where we're at. I think there's a line there. So I will put one there. Gotta be careful, don't want to smudge anything. Yeah, Jay, I redrew some stuff for him early on, and I did some ink stuff for him early on. I've done finishes for him. I've colored his stuff. He's done layouts for me. We've collaborated in all sorts of different ways over the years, and it's I see the stuff in Jay's work that people miss because I know it so well. Maybe at some point and Jay's always game for it, so maybe at some point we'll have him back on and we'll do more of a you know, instead of him just going, I don't know, I just tried to rip off Bernie Wrightson, I can try to get him to add some more. I use two different erasers because Jay used multiple types of pencil. I think he actually used some they used to call China markers. I don't know what they're called anymore, but they're like a waxy dark line. And the only thing that gets those things off is the classic plastic white eraser. Cat is just yelling. I'm actually going to add another line to that sweater. I'm going to take a different pen. Just do a tall spread out line. All right. And we have this other face of this other person who is just like, I believe that's his teeth. Sean says he just got some new watercolors from Korea that are amazing for the price. Oh, nice. So yeah, some of those little watercolor kits that have been coming out in the last few years are terrific. I got one from my wife. It's great. I think it's the Faber-Castell or the Grumbacher. I don't remember, but it's in my bag. I use it. It's got great color reproduction. I think it's terrific. And that was not the case for a long time. Those little kits used to be total garbage. Don't know what's going on this side of this kid's head. Assume that's his hair. I can't tell if this kid is wearing the same thing or it looks like he's not. This looks like a pocket. I would interpret that as the pocket, like a breast pocket on his shirt. So we'll give him that. There's a line right there, right there, right there. Let's give this a little bit more. That's how I interpret how he drew the hair. I could be wrong, but man, there's a lot of room for interpretation on that background figure. And I think you'd be able to see like his pant line like right there. So we'll add that in. And then you're going to be able to see his leg too. So we're going to have to figure out where that leg is. This is where his hips are. Pants, hips. So we'll go like that. Oop, that was a little off screen. Sorry. Had to figure out where his leg is. All right, I'm going to use a form of cross-hatching that was very popular in the 1970s. I gave it a cute name called toss hatching. It's a loose type of cross-hatching that you do patterns, you repeat patterns, but they're not vertical straight lines. What you do is, and I'll use a bigger marker to illustrate. I'll use this one. Normally you're cross-hatching, you have people who ring like this, and then they come back and they can make them closer and like this. It's very organized. Now, the way I like to cross-hatch these days is called toss hatching. I make these arcs like this, and then I cross back with another arc like that. And you can see that it gets a little bit more of a dynamic look to it and a little bit of chaos. But because you're repeating the same motion and you're overlapping them, it creates something for the eye to hold on to. There's something about it, the way the pieces move together, that the eye interprets it a certain way. And you can see it, Serpieri, master of cross hatching, um, you know, um, Rudy Nebres, got Esteban Maroto, Juan Ortiz, a lot of the folks that did the black and whites in the 70s, just masters of it. They had a very loose cross hatching that they did. And this is I can't say it's exactly the same, but this is my interpretation of that. And I think it would serve this very well in the background because you have this in the foreground. And then if we had a very fine toss hatch in the background, I think it would do very well. But I actually think we might have to go even finer, but we'll start down here. Let me take a look at that. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go even finer than that. Where's the extra small? Where do I have an 01? Have I got an 01? Yeah, that'll do it. It's one of the last things I'll use a micron for. And I've used this texture for a number of things effectively. It's great for smoke. It's great for um, like brush, like underbrush. I think it's great for that. It's great for a lot of stuff. I've never tried using it really on water because I don't think that it has too rough of a feel to it. Now he wanted to go full Wrightson, and that this is not something Bernie would in a million years do. He would have a very organized Franklin Booth-esque interpretation. But I'm not Bernie, so I could never in a million years be him. So we're gonna go in and we're gonna do this how we know how to do it. And I think we're gonna need some here, and we're gonna try to put it into here where he has these really chunky lines. That's one thing that I will call a mistake on what Jay did on this piece was when he went in with that fat marker, it takes away the illusion. Like it's no longer a scene. You start to think of it at the same time as also just being a pen line. So I do think that sometimes that will take. I always want people to be aware that it's a drawing, but I don't ever want it to be jarring to the point where it breaks the internal logic of a piece. So, but you can see that it has this nice feel to it. And up here, I can go back into it with my Pentel white pen, and I can pull out reverse with it. It's great. And you can get into a groove. This is the kind of thing that if you have a large area to do, you can make a Photoshop brush or a Clip Studio brush with this pattern real easy, but it never feels the same. When Jay and I collaborate, the end product is I liked how Eastman and Laird used to describe their collaborations is it created a third artist that doesn't exist in the real world. I always liked that description. I always thought that was a nice description. And Kevin actually does a crosshatch, not too different from this these days. He's got a crosshatch that has like some bite to it like this. Now there's a crop line, so I'm not going to go too far. What I will do at the end, because of the way this piece is coming together, is if we can, I'm probably going to have to take this closer to the edge. Yeah. Jay does not always think of the print cut lines, the production end. of where the drawing is because he'll go and fix it in Photoshop. Like he'll just draw it, and then when he pulls it in, he'll do his crop or whatever in there. And when you have a split pen, works even better. Love it. So like your old microns, your beat up old ones, this stuff is great for. So if you have one that's like got plenty of ink left in it, but it's split, the tip is split on your micron, this line is born for it. See, it gets an even like more interesting look to it right there. You can't see that, but you can see where the split. Let's see if we see that right there. Those three lines that might right above my thumbnail. That's done with a split micron, and you can see that line very obviously when you know what you're looking for. And in this case, I think what it adds is like a degradation feel to it, and it just gives it more depth to the thing. And you can see where while there is a chaos to it, there's an organization as well because you can tell it's a repeated pattern. So that's why I think it works as a screen. I really do. Let's grab our white plastic and see he used that heavy black over here. It's either a really soft lead, like an ebony pencil, or like one of those waxy China markers. Let's pull back over here. And just because we're doing it, see this section here where you have this thick line that tells you that it is. I mean, to me, this pulls me out of the piece, like this chunk right here that he threw in. Not the space. Like I think he picked the right area to darken. I do, but adding that crosshatch, I thought, did the nice work that he had done. Picking where that dark area would be a disservice. And you can see when we erase those structural lines that the piece comes together. And for some reason, our thing is acting weird again. Let's see if we can pull it together. There we go. See if we have another micron in here. That's an 03. That might be too big, but let's take a look. This one's been worn down, so this will be okay. It's clear he wants like a halo effect on this. So I don't want to completely lose the white that is there. If I do, I can go back in with some white medium and pull it back out. But if I can do it organically with the pen or the brush or whatever I'm doing, there is always a better finish to it. I don't know why, but it does always look better. What we need to do is completely cover over these. I am going to go in with the white after all. After looking at this, when I started to cover this up, it's going to take a little bit more work than I had planned. is my camera being a pain? I think by the time we're done, and we might as well have blacked it out. It's not a bad call, but we'll take a look. I do like dry brush quite a bit, but I don't know if it would work with what we're going for here. But that's not a bad thought. I like that idea, Sean. That's a good idea. But I do think we'll go back in with some white at the end. I do all that at the very end, all those little flourishes with the white out pen. Just trying to soften it a bit. You know, it was a really harsh effect. And I know that's kind of Jay's bag sometimes, but this is a collaborative, so we'll try to get the best of what we can both do. There we go. It's a little softer. I wanted a softer edge to that. So we'll see what we can pull off. And the idea being that when you see this texture here, this and it'll be up here, and then you'll see it down here, that it'll work. Visually, you'll look at the play. Nothing will look like it was forced, and it'll have a, like I said before, an internal logic to the piece. Now, when I get a bunch of these, in order to go back in and darken it, I'll just do a little shimmy like this and then overlap them because I'm still making those same arcs. They're just connected so that they make a darker pattern. And I've tried doing it where you just start with those shimmies without doing the toss hatching on top, and it doesn't work. It doesn't look as nice. And I can't explain why. I just know that if I do it in this order, that I'll get a nice screen look, a nice consistent. Sean, I don't think we are coloring this. I think this is going to be reproduced in black and white, so that's why we're going in and doing some tonality and stuff. So I think that it will be black and white, and I mean, I can't say for sure, but I'm fairly certain that he will go black and white because he does his horror comics usually in black and white, and I think that that's this is going in. It's another reason why I'm going in and putting the extra time in that. But I can't say for sure. Jay might get carried away in the moment and say like, "Oh, we better put a whole bunch of digital coloring on top of this." I've been guilty of that too, so I can't say. I definitely have some pieces I colored that I wish well, I am going to publish some of them in black and white. Like I colored Rich Buckler did an Acts of Helena piece for me, and I just want to publish the line art and do kind of like a I've got so many beautiful pinups from people over the years. I would like to do my own kind of like faux artist edition. And if I could print it like treasury size, that would be ideal. For Helena especially, like I've got Paris Cullens, I got Ralph Reese, I got Alan Weiss, I have Tony Salmons. Daryl Banks did just a beautiful piece where she's fighting these like lizard monsters. Just so many of my friends. Frankie Washington did a piece for me. Eli Stone did a piece. I would just love to put them out there in their truest form. And I'm actually going to lose some of these lines. I'm going to go back in with the white because I do think there needs to be a tighter edge to the shadow that Jay wanted. But you can see it gets a nice little pattern, and you can, when I go back in and put the final layer of ink over top of this and flatten stuff out, you'll really see the pop. This day and age, I haven't colored anything of Jay's in a long time. All right, let's get our ruler and see if we can get some of the background elements. It's already 9:30. Geez, time flies, man. I cannot stay until 10, otherwise I will get no work done tomorrow. So we're gonna rule in this line right here. I'm hoping Jay kept an eye out for, good, we shorted it, good. Kept an eye out for tangents. Tangents are just killer. Here's this. Now in drawing this line, we now know where the edges of that piece need to be. Of the black here, let's grab our pen. This sucker is going to take us 3 episodes to do. I hope Jay likes it. And then we actually also need just a little bit of the pattern down below over here, if you can see it. Right here, there's like this little square. So we're going to want to toss that out a little bit just so that people can visually identify that when they see this and they see this, they know that it's behind that pillar. And Jay left this. See, now what I'm thinking is that this whole back area should be a halftone. And if we halftone this with light toss hatching over this whole thing, it's going to give us a thing. But then again, like that's so much noise. That is so much noise. Now that I'm looking at it, I think what we need to do is basically treat our light sources here. So if we pull ourselves like this, we can then help frame the piece by having a curvature right there. And then this part up here will be in that toss hatching. And then there's a nice white area right here to pull the eye through. I think that's what we'll do. All right. He wanted this completely white. I don't know if I agree with him on that because he's in front of it. You'd think you would have another cast shadow like right here where the arm comes in front of it. I don't know. Well, let's zoom out and see the progress we made this week. So we inked in this piece here. We inked in these characters here. Let's erase what's on those guys. And then we got this toss hatching here. So thanks everybody for hanging out tonight. Episode 101 is in the books. I will show off that one page real quick, if it's right here, which I hope it is. Here it is. Now this page is a one-page gag that is in, thanks Sean, you too. Undersea Hero, page 26. It's actually, this whole story takes place on a roulette wheel. So you can see this little sea creature about to having a cigarette. He's got his arm on this thing and he's about to get into this sphere. And then this pretty little sea creature lady comes up and gives him a kiss. The door closes, an arm hits it, and then you can see that he's driving something, and it goes down this huge ramp, and he's just flying, he's going so fast. And then you just see that it's the roulette wheel, and that's the little roulette ball that goes tack, clack, clack, top. And then that's them. That's Krakus and Poseidon playing roulette. So, funny little one-page gag, and I drew it small. So, but yeah. That's our update. I'm working on the next page, and we'll just keep working on them as best we can. Like I said, it looks like we are going to probably be a little late on some stuff. I'll have a better idea as we get closer. So keep an eye out for updates, and I hope to see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.